In the 4th episode, we get a backstory on Geraldine, aka Monica Rambeau, which is her real name. And the backstory starts off with the blip, because when Thanos snapped, Monica blipped. And she returns where she blipped in a hospital room, but she's wondering where her mother is, and she's walking around the hospital trying to get answers, but the problem is, people are coming back and they weren't expecting it, so everybody's kind of freaking out a little bit. A doctor, however, recognizes her and can't believe that she's in front of her. And Monica just thinks that she fell asleep for 20 minutes, not realizing that she's been gone for 5 years. And the doctor has to explain to her that unfortunately her mother, who of course is the famous Maria Rambeau, passed away 3 years ago. Her cancer came back, and now Monica has to process the fact that she was gone for 5 years and she wasn't able to say goodbye to her mother. After a couple days, though, she heads back to work for the first time in 5 years, and she works at the SWORD headquarters. SWORD stands for Sentient Weapon Observation Response Division. Problem is, her card doesn't work, and the security doesn't think she actually works there until finally, acting director Tyler Hayward. They know each other from 5 years ago, and they seem to have a really good relationship. He starts getting her filled in on what she's missed in the past 5 years, mainly the fact that the astronaut mission hasn't been the same since Rambeau was up there. SWORD lost half of the astronauts in the blip. And they've really transferred most of their focus on the sentient weapons from alien software. Before they actually go into a meeting, though, he wants to address the elephant in the room. The fact that he is acting deputy director. He tells her, you should have been here to name a replacement. But she's very kind and says, you were the right choice. She then wants to know, though, how she can get back in the action. And he lets her know that the FBI is in a tizzy over a missing persons report, which seems like a waste of her talents. And it's because she's grounded. And ironically enough, it was her mother that set up these protocols. If someone ever went missing, they'd be grounded. He tells her, though, if there's one positive out of this, is the fact that her mother believed that she would come back. He tells her, you'd be doing me a big favor with this FBI thing, but if you need more time, and she just cuts him off and accepts the deal. So off to Westview, New Jersey she goes. Everybody's dream assignment, where she's actually greeted by FBI agent James Wu. He lets her know that the missing person seems to have disappeared. And the most amazing thing is this missing person is in the witness protection program. Wu tells her, I've contacted known associates, relatives, and not only have they not heard from the person, they're saying he doesn't even exist. And the craziest part is the fact that when they go to talk to the local law enforcement, they tell them that Westview doesn't even exist. And it's worth mentioning that these are Eastview police. So you can't reach anybody inside of Westview, and everybody outside seems to have amnesia towards it. Wu lets her know that this isn't a missing persons case, it's a missing town. Rambeau asks him, why don't you just walk in? But he says, it doesn't want me in. You can feel it too, right? Nobody's supposed to go in there. So she sets up a drone, flies it in there, but it immediately just disappears. And the camera footage goes dark. And when she walks closer to the Westview border, she sees the sort of force field. And she starts touching it, and Wu starts warning her, and then all of a sudden, it sucks her in, and she's gone. Within 24 hours, every branch of the military has set up shop on the outskirts of Westview. And they've called in all types of experts, including Darcy Lewis. And it's because she's an expert in astrophysics. She goes into a tent and gets all set up. And the readings are off the charts. There's a ton of CMBR, cosmic microwave background radiation, stuff from the Big Bang. She then notices, though, there's another wavelength superimposed over the noise, and she finds an old school scanner. When she turns it on, she sees the old school 50s show. Now, outside, the different branches of the military are still trying to get into Westview, and they're going about it throughout the sewers. They have one guy go down, and he's got a cord tethered to his back just in case anything happens. But as he makes his way through the portal, the cord turns into like this 50s rope-looking tether. It breaks off, and when the military wheels it back up, they see it, and they're really perplexed. The soldier, however, makes it up through the sewers, and that's the guy that Wanda saw when she said no. And we don't know what happened to that guy after that. I can't imagine it was good. After this failed experiment, Director Hayward walks into the tent where they have pretty much every kind of radar, sonar. If it ends with R, they've got it set up. But then all of a sudden, he hears an audience laugh track and notices that Darcy is over in the corner watching a television show. And only Darcy and Wu recognize Wanda. Darcy points out, it's been a crazy few years on this planet, but Vision's dead, right? Not blipped, he is dead. Hayward has no idea what he's watching, and Darcy fills him in. She tells him that when she plugged the TV in, this is what she's getting, an old school 50s style television show featuring 2 Avengers. Hayward requests a transport back to headquarters and tells Darcy, if we're recording this, I need immediate analysis, and then he takes off. And it was Darcy who was the one at the end of the first episode scribbling stuff in a notepad. Wu then decides they need to figure out who the other characters in the show are. And through forensic analysis, they're able to figure out who everybody is, who their real identities are. But as the television show continues, Darcy notices a familiar face. It's Monica. And both Darcy and Wu are trying to figure out why Monica is there. Is it deep cover? But that really doesn't make sense. And Wu asks her, let's get down to brass tacks. What is this? Alternative reality? She says, no, it's a sitcom. And neither of them can figure out why, but that's just what it is. She does, however, have an idea, and that's to talk to Wanda through the radio next to her sink because she washes the dishes about once an episode. But as they're setting up the equipment, Wu gets a document showing that Wanda found one of the drones, and it's the one that she found in her bushes, although it looks a lot different than the one that they sent in. It's changed. The only thing that hasn't changed is the color, and when they find out that the picture wasn't colored in, it just was like that, it puts a sense of urgency into them. So they immediately jump into action. And that's when Wanda is at the pool talking with Dottie, and the voice that was saying, "Who's doing this to you, Wanda?" was Wu's. And Darcy is watching this on the television camera, but what she sees is a glitch. It goes back to Dottie cutting her hand on the glass. She doesn't really think anything of it. She just thinks that the mission was unsuccessful. So Wu heads back, and Darcy and Wu continue to monitor the television show, and now we're in the 70s with Wanda pregnant. And they definitely did not see the twins part of the episode coming. But what's really shocking is when Monica brings up Ultron. It's the first sign that someone is mentioning the actual reality. And they see Wanda confront Geraldine/Monica about it, but it glitches right into the end credit scene. And that's just a glitch that they can't ignore. They're wondering why someone is censoring the broadcast, but they're also wondering where Monica went. But then the buzzer goes off because, as we now know, Monica was thrown through the portal. Wanda didn't take too kindly to the fact that Monica was an outsider, even though she was pretending to be her friend. And she used her powers to throw her through the wall and back to reality. And after she does it, she seems a little shocked at herself. But she pulls herself together, fixes the walls with her powers, and that's when Vision walks in. Vision, as we know, asks about what happened to Geraldine, and she tells him she had to go home. But when Wanda turns around, Vision is in the state that he was when Thanos killed him. It really freaks her out. She actually has to turn away, but when she looks up, Vision's fine. And Vision can tell that she's upset, and he says, "We don't have to stay here," but Wanda says, "No, we do. This is our home now. Don't worry, I have everything under control." She then goes over to the crib, picks up one of her children, and says, "What should we watch tonight?" and goes over to sit on the couch. But Vision looks like he's a little concerned. Like he's kind of being forced to be there and put on a strong face for her. Either way, they sit on the couch, and that's how that episode ends. But back in the real world, all sorts of military, including Wu and Darcy, are huddled around Monica, where she just says, "It's Wanda." Thank you so much for watching this recap. Please consider subscribing to the channel. Like the video if you liked it. Hit thumbs down if you thought it sucked. If you don't see the next video up in the end screen, don't worry, it'll be up soon. And please be nice in the comments section. Nobody likes being told they suck, even if it's true. Oh, and sharing's caring.